Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the IP3 podcast. Uh, I'm here with Alex and Rhea, the full IP3 on board for today. And we're going to be talking about part of the Mistveil and Constructed,
Mhm.
uh, and what to expect during the upcoming national season. Um,
Yeah, we
little,
have we have a whole release weekend, 4 PTI events to go off of, most of which had fewer than 16 players, or half of them. We just know the entire meta at this point, right?
yeah, it's completely predetermined.
Yeah. Basically, we don't need to play out Nats. We could just look at this and just like make the numbers bigger, and nothing will change. Surely.
Perfect representation. I don't know about you two, but my case of Part of the Mistveil was really bad.
Hmm. My
The
my
set's still really
pre-orders
cool.
my pre-ordered singles were exactly what I ordered. Actually, it was great. No surprises,
Yeah, that's fair.
and that's
My
how we
three
get.
levels of enlightenment that I bought for $4 pre-order were great, but then I opened three more levels of enlightenment. So
Wow! Congrats on making $120.
yeah, pure profit.
Nah, they're
My
not that much. They're like 30 right now. Ooh, shiny.
So pretty. The set is gorgeous in paper.
It is.
yeah, this the sacred art cards
Hmm.
I think are the best looking cards I've ever seen.
Yeah, all three of them. They just
The cold foils.
they knocked it out of the park in the set with the marbles, just in general.
Yeah.
Well,
Excuse
uh,
me.
US Nats then is a little over a week from now. The
Yeah.
three of us will all be playing there. And then Nats for the rest of the world are played over the following 3 weekends. And as I was sort of looking at the details about Nats and everything, all right, disclaimer: I'm the first person to say that in the U.S. we're entirely spoiled for availability of events, even and especially even more so living in the Cleveland, Ohio area. We're incredibly spoiled, but I wish there was a calling attached to somebody else's Nats that we could go to.
Yeah. I mean, the Canadians get to do it to us, right? They talk
Right.
about how.
I want to crash Canadian Nats with you all and go play
God,
the
that
calling.
that sounds so nice. Just drive 5 hours to Toronto and hang out and play calling with you know all of the good Canadian players staying out of our business. That does sound like the dream, actually.
I mean, it honestly kind of sounds like US Nats a little bit. Just one
Yeah, I
format.
mean that's fair. Yeah, I mean the
uh,
Canadians are basically getting practice 2 weeks ahead of schedule with our national championship calling.
true, true. Uh, but yeah,
I
it'll.
wonder I wonder if it's because the US player base is so big that like ours is for I think ours has always been first, right?
This is the first
Um,
time that it is like uniquely not with any other Nats in the world.
yeah.
Okay.
We have our own weekend this time.
I mean,
Uh,
it does make sense why we get our own calling, right? We're like triple the size of any other Nats. I think they're expecting just under 600 players for US Nats, which is insane.
right, and it sort of defaults you to having a really solid calling attendance.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the biggest calling ever, but calling Toronto, let's do it. Come on.
God, it sounds
Just
so
like two
nice.
weeks notice, you can set that up right now
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
I,
Come on.
because I can make travel plans in 2 weeks for Toronto. We can make that happen.
Yeah.
Just LSS. We need you to step up.
All right. So obviously Nats are split format events. So we're going to be
Yeah.
playing starting with CC and then playing one part of the Mistveil Draft, and then the next day we flip it and we start off with another draft and then end on CC again. Um, the number of rounds is different for you know the other nationals, but the general structure is the same as far as I've
Mhm.
seen. Um, how are you two feeling about draft?
Who's going first?
I am adopting the Mark Morrison patented draft calling winning strategy. I found my hero. My hero does not require many red threats to have a good deck, and I'm just going to draft that hero.
That's fair. But Mark's strategy was to draft KO, which you might
Yeah.
struggle with.
You're correct. I might have a hard time drafting KO in Mistveil. I don't know. It's like my unironic answer is I'm heavily biased towards Enigma, right? I know how to pilot new. It's just not my favorite. And you probably won't catch me dead with the Zen deck in my hands. But I think there's a lot of everyone kind of understands this format at like its first surface level right now, right? I think there's actually a lot of nuance here. If you go back and look at the deck that Noah drafted in the top 8 of Battle Hardened Montreal, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was not the traditionally strong, and I use traditional very loosely here because like we're a few weeks into the format. It wasn't the traditionally strong draft Enigma deck that you would expect with like Spectrum Manifestations and Waxing Specters and stuff. But it was instead chaining Vengeful Apparitions into Solitary Companions to put like 3 or 4 threats on the board at once that all had +1 power counters, which was really, really good because instead of having one threat you need to keep alive, you have multiple smaller word threats on the board, and it's easier to keep at least one of them alive. I was really impressed with that, and I think it might be a signpost that like, oh no, wait, there's like multiple unique archetypes in each hero in this format, and you can probably draft different decks between them, even though there's only 3 heroes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think even a simpler version. When I was experimenting, you know, uh, a few days back was like, okay, well, if I'm playing Zen in this draft format, do I even want to bother like trying to transcend, or can I just play, you know, 30 good aggressive cards that all block and just be like doing a Phi cosplay in this draft environment?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think you can probably go ahead, Alex.
I the Zen deck. I have not drafted online at all. I know that is an option, but I just prefer the paper draft so much better that I just don't do the online ones really. But the ones that I have played Zen in, I have definitely been more in the favor of I'm just gonna play good cards, and I end up with like maybe a couple combo cards, but often the big payoff, the what is that? The
Pouncing Chi? Chi
that's from zero
Unleashed.
for 4. Yeah, Key Unleashed. That is a rare, so it doesn't come up very often, and it's also I feel like taken highly. So I've been more in the camp of I think my the one Zen deck had 0 Transcend cards, and the other one had 1 Transcend card, and just um, like I'm just going as wide as possible with like tiny numbers and like cards that buff tigers, so like Untamed and Water the Seeds and that kind of thing, and like I've I've gone 11 chain links wide and
With
like
your
dealt
Sacred Art that
16
you
with
drafted.
16 damage in limited. So it's
Jeez.
um,
Wow.
at one point I had 3 Crouching Tigers on the combat chain, all dealing damage. So I feel like that's the way I end up getting it, and the 3 for 7s are good in every single deck, even Zen.
The 3 for 7s are just good in
Like
every
I
single deck.
won. I had to pivot in the middle of pack 2 from Enigma to Zen, and I was able to do it, hit exactly 30 cards. So I didn't get a sideboard or anything, but I had 4 3 for 7s, and those just carried me to wins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, Battlefront Bastion Red is just like
that
quietly one of the
card.
best cards in the set. Is it? I guess I'm not thinking about Welcome to Wraith enough before I ask this question, but is Red Battlefront Bastion the best generic common we've ever seen in a limited environment? And the moment that comes out of my mouth, I'm like, no, Sink Below exists.
I
The
was
card
gonna
that they
say
had to
Sink
take
Below
2
pretty
steps
good.
down to get to Red Evasive Leap in this format.
It's certainly up
Bastion's
there.
close though, right?
At least like
Sink Below
contextually
Blue
for
in
its
this format would
format,
be
it's
crazy.
gotta be up there.
Yeah.
Can you imagine playing Blue Sink Below in this format?
Sounds really good. Even just like Blue Dodge in this format would be so much better than Evasive Leap for 1.
Yeah. You're not wrong. So, have you been leaning into a particular hero or just staying open each time, Alex?
I've stayed open. All the drafts that I've done, I've drafted all 3 heroes now at this point, at least once. It's weird because like at locals, I feel like people are a little bit more scared to draft Enigma, so I feel like I've ended up on Enigma quite a bit. But I'm sure at nationals that people aren't going to be scared to play Enigma just because of the instant shenanigans. People are going to know how the hero works.
Yeah, just like what happened at Nationals last year, where everyone was like, yeah, I just want to draft Prism. And then you get these nightmare 4 or 5 Prism pods, and the one uncontested Bolton just runs them all over. I really hope that's not what happens, because I definitely have a preference. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of people arguing that every hero should be the most popular. Like there are the Zen Truthers and the Enigma Truthers and the new Truthers.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they're all viable?
The nonsense.
I think that's one of the most, I guess, I don't know, either successful or intriguing parts of this draft format is that the only way that you're going to have what feels like a power level aberration draft is if there's 4 or 1 of something. If your draft pod lands in a 3-3-2, obviously the 2 of deck is going to likely feel a bit stronger, but as long as it's anywhere in there, like the games and the gameplay matters a ton, and I don't feel like the
That's a really great point that I hadn't crystallized yet. Because when I think about like all of our past formats where there's 3 of something, you're right. There always in the past sets have been. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up past sets. There's always been the one archetype that it's just objectively correct this to be the 2 of Guardian in Heavy Hitters, Dash IO in Bright Lights, right?
Or classes that could have a 4 of and not be devastated by it, like Missouri, or just Assassin in Outsiders.
Yeah, the Rangers and Outsiders always wanted to be the 2 of. I don't think we have that this format. Yeah, you're totally right. Huh.
Which I think promotes staying open more, because then you can read what is going on and try to find yourself into the 2 hero section.
Yeah. Okay, but if no one commits and everyone stays open, then there's never any signals for you to read.
At some point,
I'm doing my part.
That's true. All right.
I will say I have found it
seat me next to Rhea, please.
Yeah.
Strange to try to read Enigma signals because the yellows are so bad.
I mean, it's hard because there's only like 12% of the cards that you could open you actually care about, and the rest are just plot 3 filler.
Yeah,
I just feel like
the yellows being shorter printed is an interesting feature of this format as well.
You can get past a pack and it can have like 2 yellow auras in it. It's like, okay, is Enigma wide open, or is the Enigma to my right just didn't want these cards and took like blue Mystic cards instead? I find that slightly challenging, but
yeah.
As Brian would say, get good.
You just gotta believe or get good. Yeah, that's a reasonable alternative, I
Either
guess.
way, look, or be in a 4 Enigma pod and 2-1 it by being the best Enigma player of the other Enigmas.
That I can do.
I
I think
You just have to win the die roll.
last year at Nats, me and Will Bradshaw were in the same pod, and we ended up in a 4 chain pod,
Oh,
and so we we played. We both started 0-1, and then we had to face each other in the second round of it, and it was garbage time chain versus garbage time chain. It was
someone's
a
got to
sight
win
to
those games.
no shackles were used.
Oh
It was
no!
so no, but at some point it was, but the whole game was these like limped turns because we knew that the moment someone started shackling, our decks were going to be weak enough that you could probably just block out and win via fatigue if you weren't milling yourself. And so we, for like 8 turns went by, no shackles were made in a chain mirror.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back. I think every split format event I've played, I think all my draft rounds I've gone 2-1.
That's a good.
That's pretty good.
That's really good.
Never gotten the 3-0, but also never got 0-3. So
Yeah, that's solid. I was perpetually 3-3 at like premier limited portions of split events until the last PT. I broke it, got a 4-2.
Yeah, I'm not particularly good at limited unless I get to draft a hero I really love. World's Icelander, easy 3-0. Now, in pod 1, day 2, when I'm the 5th Icelander, that one
Simply
didn't go so well.
outplay the other 4 garbage Icelander decks.
here's my yellow ice bind. Fear me.
Hey, look, there was only AB1, so that looks pretty strong to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's strangely real.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Moving along. Do we have any other thoughts on drafting part of Mistveil?
Take your K-Koi higher.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and cop to that one on the air. The the Keikoi are very very good, particularly the head slot because there's not a lot of good competition in any of the classes.
Particularly the chest slot. This is my hill that I'm gonna die on. I've been seeing people say that Koimono is creeping up there for them. I think the K-Koi chest is just like the thing I want in every single draft.
You have something to say about the emissaries, Rhea?
Okay, so I might have. So dang it, you got me. Okay, so Alex and I had a pre-release game after I was very down on the emissaries in our set review, where I played Emissary of Tides into him 3 turns in a row, and he was like, "I thought this was a bad card," and I was like, "I thought it was too." So maybe now that I've played the format a little bit and I understand that outside of your equipment there's no ways to stop 4 power breakpoints, maybe the emissary cycle is pretty good in the context of the format. You got me.
We did it, ladies and gentlemen.
We didn't, Ray. We didn't plan this well enough. I don't know if we have anything to make Alex admit that he was wrong about.
Probably something.
There's probably something, but
I'm sure there's something. We'll find it next week.
yeah.
Or actually, it's going to be the terrible take he's about to make in this CC meta prediction. Clearly, that's what he's going to have to be wrong about.
I'm okay with that.
So we like I said earlier, we had 4 PTIs over the weekend. ProQuest Plus events over the weekend. I think I said that without stumbling it too hard. With our first look at the CC meta for Part the Mistveil, there was one at the UK Games Expo, I believe, in London, 2 at DreamHack in Dallas, and 1 at the Montreal Battle Hardened. So Zen, kind of on this more interesting mid-rangey. I think the official list was called like Phi Cosplay was the February deck name.
Oh, I think it was like,
Um,
wasn't it like Fi in a furry suit?
that's it.
That's
That's what it was.
They can join. They can join the team. That name is sufficient enough.
it.
Jake Warburton hit Eclipse up.
Yeah, you've met our
um,
primary criteria. Funny deck
very
names.
much not the 9 bonds of ancestry, full-on combo decks that we've seen also being proposed by the ninja expert. That's in terms of like the content creation field, right? I'm not sure the Zen build that won DreamHack. Have either y'all heard anything about that?
I didn't get to watch any of the coverage of anything.
Okay.
So I'm a bit in the dark on all this, but I will say playing against a couple different Zen decks during testing, the
Mhm.
the Bonds deck has turns that it does nothing. It's like
Mhm.
Kakara into a 1 for 4 pass with 5 cards. Um, but it also can just explode on turn 2, and here's 38 damage. And no deck can block all of that. And now
Yeah.
you're at like 6 life and have to block out the rest of the game. So it's kind of just the Bonds deck seems inconsistent, but the ceiling is very high. Um, but my guess would be the you're mentioning the mid-range version is probably somewhere in the middle of my 2 or 3 card hands are actually do something, and then also I have like cards that I can combo off with to do a 20 or 30 damage turn.
Yeah, I suspect I suspect the builds will sort of average out in time, and they'll keep, they won't be so fully dedicated to that top end Uber combo turn, but yeah, they'll make sure that the average turn is more respectable while they bide their time
Mhm.
waiting for the pop off.
So I feel like, we are a Flesh and Blood podcast. We have to just ask this question, right? Zen won half of the events on release weekend. Do we need a ban? Is it time to start asking for those yet?
Yeah, let's ban Stubby Hammerers, shall we?
Oh, good
Oh, that
idea.
card needs to go. Gotta go.
That card would actually
Oppressive.
be
It would be so
um,
disgusting.
nightmarish, I think.
Yeah, I think it'd be a
Nightmarish is
different
what we're looking for.
conversation if that card wasn't already banned.
Stonewall Gauntlet would be $250 on the other hand.
Yeah. I am disappointed thinking through the uses of Stonewall Gauntlet and how it's not quite as like definitely effective into Zen as you would want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you can think of a lot of cool use cases for that card, and about half of them, the ninja's like, oh, okay, close the combat chain. Okay, play this head jab.
Right.
New combat chain.
If they yeah, you have to catch them in the exact right spot, and even if you like, I feel like the max value of that card likely tops out uh around 5, and that's if
Mm.
it's an anthem turn and you hit them on the like ideal card to Stonewall Gauntlet.
When they can't break the chain, or else they like lose the card that they banish. Like Bond says that when you play it, you get to like search for your card and play it this combat chain. So, and it has to be played like after Descendant. So if they Art of War Descendant Gust Wave, that is the point where you would want to Stonewall Gauntlet. So that way you get the 2 points on the first attack, next point on the bonds, the next point on whatever they search off of.
For
I
those
don't.
who haven't seen the card or not familiar with its text, Stonewall Gauntlet is the new legendary generic arms that is Blade Break 1, and then when this defends an attack with power greater than its base, opposing attacks get -1 this combat chain.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know that I agree, Alex. If you block with Stonewall Gauntlet on the Descendant, outside of the Art of War, they haven't committed any like real resources to the tournament yet. If you wait and block the first Bonds of Ancestry, then like they've already done the attack trigger to banish another Bonds from their graveyard and banish one out of their deck. So like outside of resource cost, they have sunk significant like cost into this chain at this point, because you can break after a Descendant and kill the Stonewall Gauntlet effect, and then just like play out a head jab and a Kakara and arsenal your Bond and pass. Once you've
I think
played
I'm
that,
okay with that though. if they're gonna turn off
then
their
they just
own,
but then they can do the full combo again later, right?
There
I'm
is
sure I
value to
bought
delaying it.
myself a turn.
Right. I was gonna say there is, there is some implied value to not letting them do that turn right now, right? And maybe your rebuttal involves a CNC or arsenal disruption or something that takes further advantage. But
if they've already committed an Art of War and like a Descendant Gust Wave, I basically shut down their Art of War turn. If they just like pass, which I'm okay with. And this is why Stonewall Gauntlet isn't a $250 card, is because it is situational, and you can like play around it, which I think is good.
So the real issue is, what do you do when they traverse for chi and then play Shifting Winds and have two tigers in their hand? And so it's not a real Descendant Gust Wave, it's a tiger named Descendant Gust Wave. And then they go, okay, break the chain, play another tiger named Descendant Gust Wave. We can talk about this all night.
mostly be sad.
We're not going to solve Zen on air, but there's a lot to think about in terms of how you sequence your Stonewall Gauntlet. It's, for how simple of a legendary that is, I'm really impressed in how complicated it is to use usefully, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a completely blunt instrument where it just has its text and says this turn. Yeah. Right? That's the sort of a cop-out text of this needs to be good. It does hose Bolton real hard.
Sure does.
We're so sorry, V of the Vanguard. If you're playing Bolton and your opponent's playing Stonewall Gauntlet, don't V of the Vanguard for less than two charges. Just don't.
It also just like Prism has just been asking for an arms that is consistent block to like on demand and not just Wave of Reality that dies instantly for a while now, and I'm really happy to see her get it. I think it just might be like the default arm slot in Prism at this point.
And the cost of the deck just goes higher and higher.
Hey, I think Stonewall Gauntlet's the cheapest L in the set, though. Both versions.
It's more expensive than Wave of Reality, though.
Yeah, no. When Zen takes over the format, you're right, it'll spike.
Yeah.
But for now, I'll get a rainbow foil for $17 and be okay with it.
Okay, so Zen obviously the boogeyman, for lack of a better term. I don't know that we're
the week one boogeyman. Yeah,
it's the aggro deck week one, right?
Yep.
It is the aggro deck week one syndrome. Yeah. You know what other aggro deck performed well over the weekend? Shadow Realm Horror is a hell of a card, pun intended.
Didn't Levia won? No, Levia won the AGE event.
No, Levia won one of the DreamHack perquests, or PTI perquest pluses.
Might have also won the AGE thing.
Oh, did it really?
I'd have to verify.
I missed one weekend and I missed out on like 6 events.
Alex, I was glued to my computer all weekend. It was so hard because I was supposed to be writing articles, and instead I was just like, what's going on?
Can't find it. I'll look later.
God, good. Yeah, what a weekend of coverage.
Levia continues to
be,
it's very powerful, but sometimes you just die to yourself. So I have no interest in playing a deck like that, but other people do. And sometimes you don't die to yourself, and it does ridiculous things.
Shadow Realm Horror plus Savage Sash is just like, what is going on? The ease in which that turns into 30 damage turn is really scary.
the fact that the deck that has the ability to turn off Blood Debt has a chest equipment that can, I'm sure it's not replaced it in every matchup, but hang with Carry and Husk is crazy.
Yeah.
There's a time in Fab's history where like, oh, Carry and Husk 6 block just starts in play. This is the most busted equipment in the game, basically. Skeleton aside.
It was the most busted equipment for a
Yeah.
while in terms of like lethal equipment.
Yeah. And it's still good. It's still very potent, but at the same time, that just tells you how strong Savage Sash is.
Savage Dash is action cards, right? It doesn't reduce the cost of Hexagore, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's attack actions.
Okay.
If it did that for Hexagore, that'd be pretty cool, though. All for anything that makes Hexagore a bit more playable.
For real.
That's a Levia deck I could get behind.
I mean,
Or
I do think
Hellblazer.
Alex is right. Shadow Realm Horror. I have such a hard time with that card name because it's just like a mixture of 3 different Levia cards that already exist. It raises Levia's ceiling, but it doesn't really raise her floor because it just like directly swaps with Hungry Slaughter Beast, right? The 2 for 7 Blood Debt that banishes 3.
Yeah, probably. At least is the de
Sorry,
facto place to do it.
Sorry, viewers, I'm no man-sant. I'm not a Levia expert, but I'm doing my best.
But I think the floor is arguably the defining feature of Levia. This is the hero that can kill itself.
Yeah.
But also, when Levia is running hot, what in this game can compete with a Levia that is drawing hot? It's like
not a lot.
we used to talk about, the Bravo high roll where they're just like, dominate Crippling Crush and Spinal Crush and a Crippling Crush back to back to back, and you're just like, I didn't really have a way around this because it just started turn 0 and just kept happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Zen can be just as fast as Levia, ironically, is the answer, right? Which might be why we're seeing them compete for aggro deck in terms of breakout performances on the weekend.
Well, notably, both of those heroes don't need their attacks to hit to get to do their game plan.
Yeah, I do think that's something very interesting because like there is a version of Zen that is a Bonds combo deck, and it's like, well, why would you not just play Katsu? And the answer is Zen doesn't need to hit. You're right. Katsu's whole game plan is dependent on I can make this Surging Strike hit my opponent and fix my hand, because the odds of him drawing the perfect hand are just really low. Zen blocks with Traverse the Universe and is like, perfect. I have whichever combo card I want in my hand.
And a Tiger.
And a Tiger. Yeah. No on hits involved in blocking with equipment, it turns out, which is crazy. Also, just a ninja with 7 fridge between Traverse, Kasaya, Shuko, and the Boots. Stride of Reprisal? Is that their name?
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Fi also had access to that if he wanted to run Breeze Rider Boots.
I mean, and arguably...
Yeah, but Fi...
But yeah.
But Fi was disincentivized from blocking from his headpiece because it meant giving up the aggressive value. Zen gets to block with Traverse and also use it as an aggressive combo card because it tutors the Shi to hand.
Right.
Yeah, I think... Well, yeah, Traverse is probably just the best card in the set, if I'm being honest.
If it wasn't, we would have problems.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty safe to say.
Yeah.
Block for 2 off equipment, gain 3 resources, specifically Chi.
Yeah, 3 resources, which is like the very floor.
I think it's the equivalent of Skeleton before X spells existed.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of power level.
I think we should have a legitimate discussion at some point, and this is probably a different episode, but it would be a really fun one. Is Traverse the most powerful head equipment we've ever seen? And where does it rank on the tier list of all legendary equipment in the game?
It's
because Crown of
high.
Seeds is very powerful,
Yeah.
but Traverse does ridiculous things. Because Crown of Seeds is a lot of incremental value over many turns, right? But the way that you win games of Flesh and Blood is presenting an unsurmountable anything in one turn cycle, right? Whether that's a big wordplay or a big offensive combo turn or stealing all of your opponent's cards.
My vote is still going to be Crown of Seeds.
Yeah, I think it's still Crown of Seeds also, but
I'm not sure that I
it's
agree.
I think it's a
Traverse is
solid
very
number
good.
2.
Traverse is very good. I've played with it and against it, but Crown of Seeds, every turn being able to switch your arsenal for a new card in your hand is very strong. And also
If you can
preventing one
use the
damage.
2 resources. If you can use the 2 floating
I'm
resources.
saying every 3 turns because 2
Oh,
turns.
every 3. Sure. Yeah.
Versus Traverse is 1 turn. But it
I will
does
say,
get you a guaranteed card.
we were talking about how impressive Mistveil was. That is my one complaint with the set, is we have these awesome mystic heroes with these like blue generally equipment suites. There's a little bit of red in the art of Traverse the universe. And then there's just Tunic and this bright green dress in the chest slot that just like it completely stands out like a sore thumb.
You don't have to run Tunic, just saying.
Yeah, you're right. I could run Koimono in my CC deck.
There you go. See?
The
You were just talking about how
extended
great it
art.
is to get Chi in your hand.
Okay, you got me.
There you go. I fixed the deck for you. Boom.
I think that revealed something that I didn't realize was annoying though, that you can't get a Tunic altered to have like blue instead of green.
Correct. That
yeah.
is illegal under the most recent card alter policies. You can't change the composition of the card art. It has to be immediately recognizable, which is disappointing. Because literally the first thing I did was reach out to Mara and be like, "Can you make me a blue Tunic?" And she was like, "I have already done this, but it's not legal for constructed play." It was disastrous.
All right, should we stop beating around the bush and talk about Enigma now?
Yeah, just the best deck in the format. I'm gonna invoke my manifestation mirror die here.
That card's
Would you
OP.
black Traverse and pitch a Chi for it?
Is that a
Hmm?
nothing? I was just gonna comment on your cosplay Warzone that you're streaming from today.
There's a lot of stuff going on here. We will see if it all comes together for Nats.
If anybody's not watching and only listening, you might want to check out the YouTube video and just check out Rhea's background. It's just an explosion of
There's a lot
cosplay
of
items.
There's just a severed head sitting on your table over there that you can't tell because of the way there is.
All right,
Yeah,
All right.
I did not get to watch any of the coverage, but I saw Zen won a couple events, and then it was all right. Zen needs bans. Zen's the best deck in the format, and then Levia won. And it's like Levia needs bans. Levia's the best deck in the format, and then Enigma won, and silence.
Yeah. Everyone was just stunned, right? Because I didn't think that was going to come together that fast. Noah Clark, obviously a historically excellent illusionist pilot, and him and I and a group of other more known and lesser known illusionist players kind of helped put together that list for release weekend. He messaged us about 3 weeks ago, and he was like, "I have a plan." And he immediately named the group chat Sacred Art, Day 1 Living Legend points for Enigma.
Amazing.
And wow, his prognostication came true.
We love when a plan comes together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hell of a called shot.
Yeah, it's a good deck. It really preys on your opponents not knowing how to play around it. And it's very good when your opponent Katsu draws 4 reds, 2 of which are 2 cost attacks, and the other 2 are ancestral empowerments with no targets.
Yeah, I don't know if even the way that game was going in general, I don't know if Noah was ever going to lose it, but that
Yeah.
quad red was a
The
pretty
game
big
just
nail in the
ended on the
coffin.
spot. Yeah.
I have found that because I did quite a bit of Enigma testing, and if if my opponent ever has a turn where they stumble and like can't threaten my ward a bunch,
Mhm.
then I just get to keep it and play more, and now they're even deeper in the hole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it is punishing to a like OG Prism degree of punishing on ability to clear board state like
Mhm.
constantly. Um,
And we
and
also
and the
go
damage
ahead.
compounding is even bigger out of Enigma, right? Like
Mhm.
the board state is simpler to deal with out of Enigma, but not necessarily any easier in practice.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a few conversations on Twitter about like, wow, we thought Spectra were annoying because they end your turn when you attack them, but at least you could choose to clear them. Versus the slow decks like Guardians that kind of have a capped offense every turn. Enigma sets down a 10,000 year reunion or a mirror guy or even just a really big restless coalescence and is like, come on, you can't clear this. There's nothing you can do about this permanent that I just put on the board.
we always wondered, what if Dramai could block for her dragons?
What if
Well, we
yeah,
found out.
the answer is glorious.
The answer is not good for a lot of heroes.
And then a lot better for a lot of
Yeah,
heroes too,
I feel
right?
like there are very specific heroes. It's like I want to see Enigma every round because I am confident in this matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean a ninja with even just the handful of sideboard slots that are reasonable. Yeah, honestly, even just like Shuko is such a huge piece of that puzzle of
Yeah.
taxing the hand and keeping them from compounding an advantage. Um, yeah, it's not bulletproof, that's for sure. Just warded.
Also, when you make your arcane damage unpreventable and destroy all my ward with no value, it's also really annoying. But I don't know
Yeah,
who would be
yeah.
able to do that in the game.
Unclear. Unclear.
Unclear.
Good
Not
thing
certain.
nobody can do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good thing
inter-
that deck didn't also get a really powerful expansion slot card in this set.
Eloquent Eulogy is sick. It's such a good card. Uh,
Listeners, we're talking about Vincent, by the way.
yeah, yes.
If that wasn't clear, yeah. For our audio listeners that didn't see Kevin hold his shirt up to the camera, we're talking about Vincent.
And yeah, honestly, if Vincent can figure out the new matchup or make it reasonable enough, this is sort of Rhea. I think it might have been I forget which one of you said it, but was like, yeah, Prism was to heavy hitters what Vincent kind of is to the Mistveil heroes, in
I think that was this guy.
that that would make sense. But just that, you know, not that it's like, oh, this is a clear absolute counter, but like new banishes stuff for Vincent when you block. Like, sure, I'll block for 3 with this Funeral Moon, and then when you react over the top, I'll still get to cast it and get my Rune Chant, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously popping wards is really powerful. I don't think the Vincent versus Enigma matchup, once Enigma lists become more and more tuned and game plans become more and more uh,
I feel like every Enigma list started when it first came out was, all right, here's 60 ward cards. And
And we've all cut the blue vengeful apparitions by this point, yes.
yeah. But no, there was a time too where, at face value, Vincent versus Prism, you're like, oh, this is laughable because Vincent just shotguns all these angels, and Alex, I know you had your game plan into me that was very very it was very strong. It was,
Yeah.
these angels aren't going to be, you know pre I guess, like, they're not going to sit here and be ward. You used them as defense reactions,
Yeah,
and
very good at being defense
yeah.
reactions.
So I suspect that Enigma players will adapt, and it will be a much more reasonable looking matchup than one would assume at first glance.
Should we talk about the other hero now? Which I'm looking at
New.
this ProQuest Plus like metagame breakdown, and at least the one that I'm looking at right now, I'm not sure which event this was from.
This
Uh,
was Montreal.
okay, New was the most played hero,
Yeah.
3 more than
People
KO.
people love Assassin, and people love playing their opponent's cards. And people love Parth the Mistveil, and people just love New. And that's a recipe for New probably being the most represented deck just across national season. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
It's also it's a deck that punishes matchup knowledge or
I feel like
lack thereof, similarly
I,
to
I'm
Enigma.
about to age myself in the Fab universe, but it definitely feels like Dorinthia back in the first 2 sets, Welcome Wraith, Arcane Rising.
He lost me. I don't know what this means anymore.
But it's okay. New just played this card. What are the possible things that New can do? And if you can play around all those, then I feel like New won't be that effective. But right now it's brand new, and so I feel like right now it's extremely effective, and people are at this point complaining about it. It's like, what do I do? It's like, Brian, we need a soundbite of Brian saying "get good."
We
But I
know
feel
we
I
like
know
think,
someone. We might be able to make that happen.
oh my god, we should make that happen.
Start a soundboard.
but I do think
Um,
that New is fun to play.
very fun to play. I would say very fun to play against if you know how she works. When you don't know how she works and she's just doing a bunch of stuff and destroying all of your arsenals and taking cards out of your hand and playing them at a banish, it's not fun. I think I'm quite enjoying playing against the hero at this point because I know how she works, and it's like a puzzle for my opponents to conceal what they have and for me to try to guess what they do have.
Yeah,
That's my hot take.
it's definitely an acquired taste as far
Mm.
as enjoying the matchup. But yeah, I think it will end up feeling like Dorinthia, where you know your knowledge of what they're capable of is going to go a long way in determining you not getting blown out at inopportune moments, or knowing when you got to just say, sure, yeah, I'm not going to block this. What can you react with? Because sometimes they're just holding a handful of blues, and it's just like nothing. I just got one.
Also, put defense reactions in your decks. They're very good against new. Like that's the level 1 answer. Just like you got to start playing some D reacts.
You know what my level 1 answer is that I've been doing? And
Just
it's not
present
always
0 blues.
correct. I mean,
Present 0 blues.
that is good. I'm playing Jeremiah, by the way. But no, it's I'm just a lot of games I'm just not blocking. You can't damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I just don't block, it's like, yeah, okay, you're gonna banish your card off the top of my deck. You're gonna maybe banish a card from my hand or whatever. All right, cool. Here's my 3-card hand and arsenal, and we'll see if your next hand also does the same.
Yeah, don't be afraid to protect key cards in your deck. I had a game. It was KO into new, and it was it's just an early Bonds of Agony, and I had the if they sent no disruption, my hand was the best 5 card KO hand you're capable of, right? Like I had tokens, I had blues, everything was set up, and new came in with a 4 or 5 card hand, led on Bonds of Agony, which is the one that can, if it hits, it'll take a card from your hand and they can search your deck for the same name. So if I tried to block this out and didn't calculate correctly, all of my Blood Rush Pillars are just gone from my deck. So I was like, you know what will protect the other 2 Blood Rush Bellows in my deck? And I blocked with it. I'm just like, can't find this in my hand now.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I think that's honestly a good effect to have in the game. I think if your deck is relying so much on a single card that you can't win the game without it, you probably don't deserve to win the game. The Bonds of Agony effect, I mean, in terms of like surgical extracting your opponent's deck, which is a very confusing term to borrow from Magic the Gathering because surgical extraction is already a different card in this game.
I'm just confused. All right, moving on. Do you think? Pause. Do you think we'll ever get a card that lets us get stuff out of our banish zone? Like Remembrance, like gets cards out of your
define
graveyard and puts them
get.
back in your deck.
Define get.
Like play a card out of your banish zone.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is very different, I think, if you're talking about in the context of the Shadow talent or outside of it, because like Spoiled Skull already exists, but
Outside
it's
of it.
just I would prefer for us not to. I think the Banished Zone serves, in terms of like just like the rules of the game, it serves a useful purpose as being
An
the
unreachable
permanent
place.
these cards have gone away zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you start printing banished recycling, it's just a second graveyard. And I think at that point, like why do we have arbitrary differences between the graveyard and the banished zone? And it's just kind of like its point, the function that it serves the game kind of breaks down at that point. So no, I would hope that we don't see it, because I think at least for the far foreseeable future, we still have plenty of design space to play with in terms of like rebuying stuff from the graveyard.
I agree. I was just curious.
Yeah, I also agree. Because, yeah, let's not rebuy remembrances. Let's just not ever let that be a thing.
Can we just ban Remembrance? That's a different question.
I'm down. Like, you want to know? I don't know that I've ever registered a remembrance in my life. That is not the kind of flesh and blood I'm here to play.
You
I
obviously haven't played a Ranger.
True.
Think I have either.
Now I just put a
Yeah, think about
remembrance
it.
in my other hand.
Yeah.
Good old Quiver of Abyssal Depths.
Yeah,
All right,
Yeah, but that's
so
like that card's cool.
that card is really cool. So we've talked about the part of the Mistveil trio.
Mhm.
They were in the Montreal meta breakdown. They were 2 of the top 3 most played heroes, joined with KO. It was new KO Zen in that order. Enigma was a little behind, but not far. It was a small enough sample size that so there was 6 Enigma players and there was 7 of Levia, Kano, Prism, Victor. So it's close enough that it's within a margin of error, I guess.
Wait, Victor's an unwinnable match into new. What?
And
Who's bringing
Enigma.
Victor?
What?
Turns out
What do you mean? What do you mean Victor top 8 is?
people will play decks that they know and like and enjoy, even if they're not optimally positioned.
Turns out Victor clashes very good at ninjas still. That still holds out. Who would have known?
And Assassin.
And Assassin, yeah.
Yeah. But so my question before we move on from the Mistveil trio is, how many of those 3 do you think end up in the top 5 most played decks at US Nats?
2. I don't think Enigma will be in the top 5 most played decks at US Nats. I think she has a rough Zen matchup. and I think in general the public consensus is that she is not solved enough, or players are not comfortable enough with solved versions of her deck. I mean, like, if you had to pick up Noah's List right now with no experience on it and learn it in 10 days for US Nats, that's a really big ask. It's a
True.
complicated hero. I don't know. We'll see. I think I would wager money that New is the most represented deck at US Nets. Not a lot of money, but a little money.
Interesting. I feel like I would expect more Zen than New on a
I think Zen
larger
will be
scale.
number 2.
Okay, so
I think
you think they take the top 2 spots though? You think
they
it's
take
New
the top 2
Zen 1 2?
spots. I think KO will be number 3. These are completely firing off the hip here, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking of the. I feel like the illusionists now that we have play more like wizards than previous illusionists.
Mm,
But people just love playing illusionist. Like I enjoy playing it. I know people specifically hate playing against illusionist, but I don't know. There was always the Dromai is not very good right now because Phi is the best deck or whatever, and like Phi beats Dromai. Not actually really the case, but that was the general sentiment. But Dromai was always still highly played. Now that people who just play illusionist have the two choices of Prism and Enigma, I feel like even though Enigma's not solved, I feel like it might be easier to pilot because you've got an extra 8 health to
literally just the decision for Nats. Which one of these goes in my bag, in my suitcase? 8, 5 minutes before I leave for my flight.
So I think the correct choice for competitive players who haven't been practicing Enigma or anything would be don't play Enigma. But I feel like there's enough people that qualify for US Nats that aren't specifically like top 64 Pro Tour players that I could see Enigma being top 5 even though maybe she shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think Prism's gonna eat into Enigma's potential meta share. That if there wasn't another illusionist that is reasonably positioned, at least somewhat reasonably positioned, you'd see a bigger uptick there. Whereas at least so far, I haven't seen much in the way of Uzuri hype as far as competing with New for meta share.
I think I actually want to push against you there. I think it's the opposite. I think Prism's meta spread is great, and I think a lot of players that should play Prism are going to end up bringing Enigma just because it's the shiny new toy. Maybe it's more fun. I don't know what silly player would ever do that, even though they know that they really should be playing Prism.
I do. I mean, I played Prism at the Pro Tour. I do enjoy playing that deck, but I do not enjoy playing the like Spectra Flood plan.
I like the Spectra Flood plan. I hate the Spectra Flood plan versus Stabskin Leathers. It's just
No,
like
I'm just saying I personally don't like playing that version of the deck. I just feel like I'm not really having fun. I'm just playing solitaire, and my opponent is also not having fun. So that's why like I haven't played Prism since Pro Tour because all but one of my rounds I had to play that plan.
Yeah.
So
yeah, same.
if I was playing an illusionist, I'd be playing Enigma just because I don't like to play the. And yes, I could play a different version of Prism that doesn't play that, but I also like winning games into half the meta. So
I do have to say, by the way, very small tangent here. Bravo LSS on making a deck that is just like a pile of vanilla damage. Really fun to play. Because I think historically I tend to have more fun when my deck has more on hits, like Azalea, Prism, etc. Ward auras don't do anything when they hit your opponent, but wow, Enigma is fun to play. So just good job on design.
The coolest
Steven,
obfuscated math deck out there. It's KO, but
as
bluer.
Steven from Team Covenant would say, Flesh Blood is a game of on hits. Enigma not having on hits. Shouldn't be in the game. Ban it.
Oh,
The on hit is damage, just like with KO.
yeah.
But I don't know. Heading into the event, though, I think it's really cool. So I agree. I do expect to see Mystic Heroes well represented, if not potentially overrepresented for being the new shiny things. But there's like a solid 14-ish heroes that I could sit down across from and not feel surprised, not be like, "Wow,
Yeah.
wasn't expecting to face this today." Um, you know,
Do we just
Kano,
want to run through them? I mean,
Kano,
like,
KO, Prism, Azalea, Katsu, Levia, Max. That one might be a little more of a stretch, but still wouldn't be totally shocked. Bolton, Dory, Kasai, Victor, and even Mr. Riptide.
you got to 12. Yeah, you got close.
Well, no, but then plus 3 Mystic Heroes is 15. So,
Oh, yeah, no,
yeah.
you're right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think these heroes vary a little bit in terms of the power levels within this tier, but this is all like, this is the field, right? Kano, by the way, looks really good this meta.
Yeah.
I hope that you have been practicing pitch stacking for the last 6 months, because if you can stack Wildfire, you could just beat anything, right?
Kinda, yeah. If
Even
you have
triple
some,
Oasis Steadfast.
if you have a
Even
couple
triple Oasis
sideboard slots and
Steadfast.
you're like, I don't know what to do with these, uh, there's a cycle of cards called Spellfray, and
Yeah.
they're pretty good.
Spellfray making its way into more and more Azalea lists, and it's very good at its job.
Yeah. Counter target Kindle.
I'm hearing like reports, by the way, of Kindle turns the Wildfire combo into killing from like 43 life now, which is
It's pretty strong.
is real scary.
I'm no
Kano
Kano
will
expert,
LL
but I
someday.
know that I am afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah. Kano will LL someday, and then they will get to print wizards that I don't know,
Do anything else.
do literally anything else but Wildfire.
Blaze seems cool as hell. I
Blaze
I'm
seems really
excited for the
cool.
future of Wizard gameplay, if that's any indication of where they're looking.
I am excited for the future of Blitz Wizard gameplay after they ban Aether Wildfire in Blitz again. I don't know why that card was tied to Kano's legality, but it's still very broken in Blaze.
Yeah, I believe that.
So Kevin, what do you think if you had a pick or two to be like, this is my called shot for this hero is gonna make top 8 and nobody's gonna see it coming. What is it?
So interestingly, I think my called shot for that. Well, my called shot for a hero that I know that I'm not taking to this event, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody, you know, finds the right mix for the upcoming field is actually Uzuri.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I there's some new powerful on hits and some old ones that are going to be particularly potent into what the field is going to look like in the weakest link and amnesia sensor. Right, there's some really powerful niche but powerful on hits out there. To go with all of the classic Uzuri goodness. Um, and what's the glove? The mess with your prevention number glove. Vambrace of Determination
Embrace of Determination.
is
Yeah.
a card that exists, and you know,
Oh, does boy
presu-
does it.
I was gonna say
He's
presumably plays a big part in how Uzuri might be able to combat what Enigma's
Messes with
trying to
girl
do.
math real bad.
messes
Yeah,
with girl math so bad.
yeah,
I will say I feel I read today one of the strongest arguments I've heard for Uzuri so far, which is someone was complaining about like, yeah, you like play your Bonds of Agony, you double hiss plus just a nick it, and then your opponent is like, oh cool, snag. It's back to 1. And someone replied, it's a good thing that you can't snag a shakedown. And I was like, oh wow, no, yeah. You're very right. You cannot snag a shakedown, and that is a very real reason to play Uzuri.
yeah, yeah. I think Uzuri is the kind of deck that will generally make a poor week 1 deck and will make a much better week 5, 6, 7, 8 deck when the meta is a little more defined and Uzuri can know specifically what to target. Which
Feels a
on
bit
hits
like she
matter.
feels a bit like Ranger to me, where it's like when you can tailor your deck to attack a certain meta, like picking the arrows that have the on hit that affect the heroes that you're gonna play against. It's quite good. Playing it into an open field is kind of like just like I guess I just take a little bit of everything, and I'm not fantastic into anything. I'm just good into some things.
Yeah,
But Azuri feels like these are the 2 for 6s that I want to hit people with because these are the heroes that I'm going to play.
yeah, absolutely.
Fun fact, by the way, we've been talking about Bonds of Agony like it's a new specialization. That's a generic assassin card. And more importantly, it says stealth on it. So it can be Uzuri's swap card if you like if you really need it to. It also can be Master Perditioned, Black Tech Whispered, and Flick Knived and be online with Uzuri committing 0 cards from hand. Card's good. Card is very, very good.
Card's
Nah,
good.
I don't think so.
Card's
No,
good.
it's pretty bad.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
blue 1 attack. It's
Wow.
garbage.
Must be
You
bad.
make a really
Also,
strong argument, Alex.
also Just a Nick is a card that exists.
Wow, Justin is a card.
Card is incredibly strong, but also
It's
fair because it can only
insane.
target these 1-cost attacks. So, all right, and then my bias showing through Vincent. Vincent having a good showing
Yeah, because you're gonna
at Nats.
top 8 US Nats with Vincent.
Oh, is that what's happening? Have I decided between Vincent and KO yet?
I think it would be
Have you
offensive if you
locked a
didn't
deck
play
with
Vincent.
1 week to go?
You got 10 days, and we also need to practice draft. You need to do reps for that too. Don't forget that.
It's true. It's true.
Nah, he's just gonna play Zen.
Oh,
That's
you're right.
not gonna happen. I don't have all the cards for that already.
No, not I meant draft.
In draft.
Fair. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. Those
Wait, does
cards
that
is
mean that I have?
ninja. Take.
Does that mean that I have
Okay.
to force new just to like
Okay.
complete the trio?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what you're locked into.
Yeah.
What's your dark horse, Alex?
So if Kevin gets 2, then I get 2.
Okay.
But I
Only fair.
actually, I actually do agree that Vincent is kind of sneaky because it turns out when you get to block damage on news attacks and then your cards get banished, the Shadow Heroes can play those banished cards. So
What?
turns out you just you just let Vincent block damage and draw a card. Crazy.
That is really insane.
And then also, if Enigma is overrepresented, people who are unprepared and just have like the week 1 60 ward cards are gonna find Vincent very challenging, I think.
But we know that's not where your heart lies.
No. The 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 truth is in the tide. I think a lot of people have not played as or against Riptide very much, and every time I play it, people are like, "Oh, this is what this hero does." That's kind of that's kind of annoying. It's kind of powerful. It's like, yeah, as more things LL, his matchups start to get better and better to the point We're now looking at new. Okay, I've got traps. I got a bunch of reactions in my deck to not let you hit KO. I have found that match to be good for Riptide. Zen can be tough, but that's why we have collapsing trap. So just like look at top, and then like Enigma. Turns out me dealing damage with traps on your turn makes those a bit challenging to attack with. So
Special shields, withdraw again, and plus one power counters.
Every trap is on.
All of the traps.
yeah,
The world is your
so
oyster.
I think Riptide people won't see coming because they haven't played against it basically at all, because there's been better Rangers, or Rangers have just been held down, but it's time.
The tide.
Time to tide.
Tide's coming in.
The tide's coming in.
I try to look at the expansion slot cards and think about what heroes are we underestimating. And I would not be shocked at all to see a Max sneak into the top 8 of US Nationals, or at least take down some of the smaller nationals. Supercell is insane at making him much, much more consistent in terms of like getting Nitromechanoid online faster. And it's just like, it's a blue card. It's just a free roll. It's a blue mech card.
He's kind of in a similar spot to Riptide, where people haven't played as it or against it. So they'll sit down against it and be like, I don't actually know what I'm doing here.
Pull a Mark Morrison. Can I read what Max does?
On coverage in top 8.
In the finals.
In the finals. Presumably, having played
God,
against
Mark.
Victor at some point in the event. What a legend. What an absolute legend.
We love you, Mark. We're just confused about how you say that you're so bad at this game, yet
Calling champion.
Yeah, so Max is my dark horse. And then when and so then like the meme answer is, when I saw the new Arcane Barrier blue instant Evo cycle, I was just like, boost Teklevosen. It's real, it's here. So I don't know if that was right. Tried it a little bit. Deck might have some issues, but I don't know. I looked at the top of this meta. New is not a great matchup. KO is not a good matchup. Zen is a terrible matchup. Kano is an awful matchup. I just have this premonition that we're going to see a Teklevosen in the top 8 of US Nationals. I think they're gonna just glide through all of the victors that are trying to fatigue the Zens.
The gem miracle is going to carry him to the top 8.
It can happen. It's happened before.
It certainly can.
And it's going to be legendary. That's my like just off the wall called shot. We see a Teklevosen.
That's fair. Everybody gets a dark horse and then the long shot.
Yeah, the long shot.
Jesse will be so sad. The event that he can't go to in Teklo.
Devastated. But yeah, I think that about does it for us for today. We're all going to be at US Nats next week. If you see us when we're there, feel free to say hi. Thanks to everyone who's been subscribing. We crested 250 subscribers after the last set review went up, which is awesome. It was a pretty cool milestone to hit.
Thank you, Michael, for the shout out.
Yes, thank you, Michael Fun. Really appreciate it. I'm glad that you liked my takes on Enigma so much. That was a really good confidence bump for me to be like, oh yeah, I do understand this format. The Pro Tour champion agrees with me.
That's all I got. Anything else?
Enigma is the best deck in the format. Don't let the Zen truthers convince you otherwise. Definitely not a psyop in either direction there.
Clearly it's been said.
Clearly it's Riptide.
All right, well, I think we're just going to disagree until the sun comes up. We will catch you next time on episode 14 of IP3 after US Nationals is concluded, and I'm sure we will come back with many, many war stories.
Vinny.
We'll see you then.
See you next time.